Daniel Riccardo is best known for his amusing post-race interviews and jocular paddock antics. But behind all that, there's a force to be reckoned with on the track, with the Australian race winner among the most aggressive and committed racers on the grid. Riccardo burst onto the F1 scene in 2011 as a member of Red Bull's Young Driver program, driving for the struggling HRT team. After 2 years with Toro Rosso, the 32-year-old was promoted to Red Bull, where he beat teammate Sebastian Vettel on his first and only attempt before the four-time world champion left to join Ferrari. His skill on the track is undeniable, so what are some interesting facts about the Aussie aside from his talent? Born in July of 1989 in Perth, Daniel Riccardo began racing at an early age, winning state and national championships as part of the Tiger Kart Club from the age of 11. As we all know, karting is where the vast majority of aspiring F1 drivers start their careers. It establishes the foundation for driving styles, temperament, teamwork, and the stresses of competition. This is particularly true for Daniel Riccardo. Riccardo developed his self-proclaimed honey badger attitude towards racing as a child while karting. In a recent interview, he discussed how karting shaped him into the person he is today. For the Australian, the things he learned can be summed up into 3 words: don't get bullied. Riccardo, you see, was not always the aggressive, late-breaking, sending-it type of driver. In fact, he was a timid kid growing up. He described a time when he was 13 and went to the racetrack with his father to practice. With 2 competitors opposing him, a quiet Riccardo found it difficult to compete on the track. I think at the time it was a bit more of a trend for me. I wasn't actually that aggressive on track. I wasn't an overtaker at that age, believe it or not. At my first race after that practice session, I was on the grid with my coach when we saw one of my rivals about 30 feet away getting ready to hop in his car. My coach says, "Daniel, walk over there and wish him luck." I walked over, looked the kid in the eye, shook his hand and wished him luck. His handshake was soft and he looked like he'd seen a ghost. So if people ask you why that lad driving the Red Bull has a honey badger on his helmet, tell them it's because I've been cultivating my inner badger for a long time. From that weekend on, I followed the badger. Joe Riccardo, Daniel's father, was also an important figure in his development. One piece of advice, however, was drilled into the young Australian driver as he made the transition to Formula One. Funnily enough, the only thing my dad tried to drill into me was look presentable. So have a clean shave. Make sure your hair is not looking too bad or whatever. It was more, like there's a lot of business and F1 is this and that. You'll be sitting in the room with a lot of big people, so to speak, so look presentable, look mature and all that sort of stuff. Surprisingly, Daniel Riccardo believes this advice pushed him into an even more opposite direction. You may have noticed that the 32-year-old is a huge fan of tattoos. In fact, he has so many that he's lost count. I think actually just being a little smart ass actually probably forced me as well to be even more don't get tattoos, what if this and that. No, I'm gonna get tattoos. It's what I want to do. He is so fond of ink that he used betting to force his former boss, Cyril Abetable, and current McLaren boss, Zach Brown, to get tattoos. Riccardo reveals that his father once advised him to avoid tattoos, but he did the opposite. If you saw the podium ceremony at the Monza Grand Prix this year, you might have noticed the Australian taking off the shoe he had spent the previous 2 hours sweating into before pouring champagne into it and taking a big, gross sip. The celebration, which Riccardo has become synonymous with, is called a shoey. In Italy, he shared the sweaty concoction with his teammate Lando Norris and McLaren CEO Zach Brown, both of whom were far too excited to drink. However, you might be surprised to learn that in the world of motorsport, Riccardo was not the first to perform the gross celebration. In fact, the first driver, or should we say rider, to do so was MotoGP rider Jack Miller, who celebrated his first Premier Class victory on the Dutch circuit of Assen on the 26th of June 2016 by drinking champagne out of his shoe. Riccardo did the ritual for the first time a little more than a month later after finishing second in the German Grand Prix in Hockenheim. Although he spends the majority of his time away from racing in Monaco, we know, what a shocker, the 32-year-old enjoys his vacations, particularly when he gets to travel to the United States. The Australian superstar has made it a habit to visit the United States during the summer break, visiting locations from the east to the West Coast. This affection for America extends to Austin, Texas, which hosts the US Grand Prix. The 32-year-old revealed that the similarities between his home and Austin make him treat the latter like home. It's one that, for whatever reason, I treat it like a second home. There are few races I like to treat like a second home, and this is certainly one of them. I enjoy it. I try not to enjoy it too much because I could probably burn myself out, if you know what I mean, but the crowd was insane at the weekend. Downtown was by far the busiest it's ever been. It was so cool. When asked what he enjoys about Austin, Riccardo said, "A lot. The first thing I do when I get here is I have a barbecue. It's the best I've ever had when I'm traveling the world, so that's probably the best thing I enjoy." During the pre-race coverage of the grid, Daniel Ricciardo can also be sporting a pair of colourful Beats headphones ahead of the race. Music, according to the Australian, has helped him get into a competitive mindset before each race. As a result, he stated he could not live without his custom-painted Beats. "We don't get much privacy before a race. This is my form of privacy. You know, typically I'll go with something with a little bit of bounce to it so I can stay loose and ready." Surprisingly, Ricciardo's pre-race music selection is determined by his starting position. "If qualifying didn't go well, then I'll put something pretty aggressive on that. I just want to carve through the field. But then if I start towards the front and I just want to remain calm and composed, then it'll be just like some happy house or like summer festival music." What's stranger is Ricciardo's choice of music storage device as a 15-year-old iPod with over 6,000 songs on it. When he appeared on GQ's Sports 10 Essentials series, the Australian spoke about the item. "This is vintage now. I've got playlists on it from over a decade ago. I probably got it when I was just moving to Europe to embark on this dream of becoming a race car driver. I'm afraid to even plug it into a laptop. I just charge it and listen to whatever's on there." There is much debate amongst F1 fans about who is the fastest driver on the grid. However, if the Top Gear leaderboard is used as the deciding factor, Daniel Ricciardo is the man to beat. He appeared as a guest star on Top Gear in 2015 and, as is customary, took part in the Star in a Reasonably Priced Car challenge. This Top Gear segment featured Ricciardo's attempt to drive a reasonably priced car as fast as possible around the Top Gear test track. What makes this interesting is that Top Gear has a separate leaderboard for Formula One drivers taking on this challenge, with names like Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button and Nigel Mansell vying for the top. One driver, however, is at the top, beating Lewis Hamilton's time by a whopping half a second, and that is Daniel Ricciardo, who pushed the Suzuki Liana given to him to the limit. So as far as Top Gear is concerned, Daniel Ricciardo is the best Formula One driver on the grid. Neat. The Australian superstar is unquestionably one of the sport's most powerful players, as well as one of the most entertaining. With the new regulations coming in 2022, some have speculated that McLaren could be title contenders, and Daniel Ricciardo will undoubtedly seize the opportunity if it arises. One thing is certain, he is a great addition to the fans, the television, and the sport as a whole, and he will be cheered on by many as he strives to win a world championship before the end of his career. Thank you for sticking around. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified of future videos. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on Daniel Ricciardo? Does he have what it takes to challenge in the upcoming season if the car allows it? Is there anything we've missed? And what are some of your favourite facts about the Aussie? We'd love to hear your thoughts.